Chisa is almost here, and she's more universal than people expect. Her built-in Havoc Bane and steady support for other negative status effects finally give the niche some breathing room. That's why her signature weapon, Kumokiri, stands out. Not because it fixes negative status overnight, but because it gives the playstyle a clearer direction. It doesn't overhaul the system, and it's definitely not the miracle tool some players imagine, but it adds reliability, smoother pacing, and just enough incentive to make negative status teams feel worth exploring again. It doesn't spark a revolution, but it does open the door for smarter, more interesting team builds. Yo, welcome back to the channel. Kamusta sa inyo lahat? Kumokiri immediately stands out for two reasons. First, it's a red and black blade that looks like it belongs on the cover of an anime album. Second, it offers an outrageous crit rate stat that instantly solves one of the biggest problems support-leaning characters face. Most defensive or utility units never get enough crit to make their own damage matter, but Kumokiri sidesteps that limitation by letting its wielder boost the team in a way that doesn't require on-field domination. Chisa, who functions as a healer and negative status specialist, ends up benefiting from both sides of the weapon's identity. So if you must top up to get Chisa or this weapon, get some edge to your 3.0 asteroid farming by getting a massive 24% discount with Loot Bar. It is a great way to keep your top-ups cheap and safe. Loot Bar offers cheaper than in-game top-ups, and if you use my link in the description, you can get an extra 10% off your first Lunate subscription, Battle Pass, or refill purchase. Trusted by gacha fans for their reliability and customer service, they're rated near perfect on Trustpilot. Their DNOI mobile top-up means you get your discounts without giving your password. I know because I use them. So if you're planning to pull, this might just be your wallet's best friend. Hit that link, save big, and help support the channel. Now back to the video. The moment Chisa casts her intro skill or inflicts a negative status, Kumokiri begins stacking up liberation damage. At first, this sounds like typical weapon behavior. Do mechanic, get buff, repeat. But the real shift happens when the stacks hit their upper limit. Once fully charged, Kumokiri extends its power beyond the wielder. Any character in the team who inflicts a negative status activates a sizable all-attribute damage boost for the entire squad. It doesn't matter who triggers it. If they play with damage over time or status effects, the team gets rewarded. This is where Kumokiri transforms from a Chisa weapon into a negative status team weapon. It's built to empower the whole composition, and Chisa happens to be the perfect conductor. She can trigger its passives effortlessly while maintaining her role as a healer who enables negative status strategies. That balance makes Kumokiri feel like it was handcrafted for her kit, but the design also leaves room for future characters who specialize in debuffs. People often overlook how valuable crit rate is on support characters, but Kumokiri's stat line changes that discussion entirely. A 36% crit rate bump is the kind of boost most DPS units would fight over, yet here it is on a supportive Broadblade. Coupled with a buff to attack and bonuses to liberation damage, the weapon feeds Chisa everything she needs to stay relevant on the field without pulling focus away from your primary damage dealer. Still, no signature weapon exists in a vacuum, and Kumokiri isn't the only option available. There are other notable Broadblades that Chisa can use, even if they're a step down in synergy. One of the most talked about alternatives is Wildfire Mark, Lupus' signature weapon. It doesn't offer crit rate, but it compensates with more raw attack and a passive that enhances liberation damage through heavy attacks. Chisa can trigger it consistently thanks to her kit, though extending the buff window requires active management. It works, but it feels more like adapting to a system that wasn't designed for her. Wildfire Mark also provides support for fusion-based negative status characters, which is useful in the right team. It's a strong second option, but it shifts Chisa's identity toward fusion support rather than universal support. For players who want to build around fusion bursts specifically, this weapon brings a lot to the table. For everyone else, it's simply reliable, but not exceptional. Another fallback choice is Lustrous Razor, the standard 5-star Broadblade. While it lacks crit value entirely, it compensates by offering strong attack stats and a bit of energy regeneration. Chisa benefits from this since it smooths out her rotations, but the passive can be tricky to fully activate. It requires multiple skill casts in a short window, and Chisa's kit doesn't make that easy. As a result, it ends up feeling functional, but not optimized. Despite these alternatives, Kumokiri maintains a clear lead. It blends offensive contribution, team-wide support, and negative status synergy in a way no other weapon currently matches. Its design makes Chisa's gameplay loop more intuitive, and it enhances her identity as a healer who empowers debuff-based compositions. What makes this weapon particularly appealing is how future-proof it feels. As more negative status characters appear, Kumokiri is positioned to remain relevant for a long time. Even with all that potential, players should still consider their polls carefully. New regions are coming, new characters are on the horizon, and resources are always limited. While Kumokiri is undeniably strong, Chisa's alternative Broadblades are surprisingly competent for a support-focused unit. She doesn't demand the signature to operate, she simply becomes better with it. But it's not just Chisa who can equip this. Lupa can use this as well, and she doesn't just use it competently, she makes it look like it was secretly designed for her. That initial 12% increase in attack immediately bolsters her already explosive damage profile, and the stacking liberation damage buff lets her push even harder during windows where she wants to erupt with burst potential. When she maintains her rotation cleanly, the weapon feels like it adds a second layer to her kit, letting her funnel more value into every ability she casts. It turns her heavy frontline aggression into something far more refined and controlled, giving fusion-focused teams a noticeably stronger backbone. Calculator is another excellent example of someone who taps into Kumokiri's strengths with surprising efficiency. His kit naturally leans toward aggressive damage windows, and the liberation bonuses provided by this blade align beautifully with his burst-based identity. The crit rate alone smooths out his damage consistency in a way his usual options can't match. Many players might assume Augusta's weapon is his uncontested best, but Kumokiri challenges that expectation. Even crazier is this weapon absolutely becomes universal with its secondary passive that procs when someone in the team inflicts Havoc Bane. So Lupa and Calculator can pair up with one of them equipping this weapon, while Chisa inflicts Havoc Bane and sustains this team. That is insane! This makes this weapon far more universal than it initially appears. Jinsei can tap into these buffs effortlessly whenever she's paired with Chisa, turning her already monstrous output into something even more explosive once the all-damage bonus kicks in. Gion benefits in a similar way, gaining not only the attack increase, but also the team-wide amplification that lets his burst windows feel smoother and more lethal. Their liberation nukes scale beautifully with these effects, allowing both characters to punch significantly harder without needing to adjust their core playstyles at all. For players pursuing a negative status-centered playstyle, Kumokiri is practically a dream come true. It amplifies Chisa, boosts the team, and rewards a playstyle that's been waiting for proper attention. For players who just want Chisa as a utility healer without worrying about status triggers, the investment might feel less necessary. The weapon doesn't define her, but it refines her. If I have the asteroids, I'd be personally pulling for it, not just because it's powerful, but because it finally opens the door for negative status teams to feel complete. Chisa brings the kit, Kumokiri brings the spark, and together they create something genuinely exciting. Whether you're planning to grab it immediately or let fate decide on the weapon banner, the important thing is recognizing how much this blade contributes to the direction of the playstyle. If this video helped you out, drop a like and hit subscribe for massive crit rate buffs. Ring that bell for extra gacha luck. Thanks for watching, maraming salamat po, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.